everyone. Welcome to another My Little Podcast. We are your hosts. I am Bree. I'm here with my brother Bryson.
Hello.
My father Gary.
Hello.
And my mother Shelly. Hi. Today we're going to be taking comments, questions, and adding little fun tidbits on our latest 2 videos.
Tidbits.
We have another midweek
I'm hungry.
peek. We have another midweek peek on it was on our stumbling into borax out in the middle of the desert, which was, I mean, it was just a fun little bit of education that I had. It just had. You start your date and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go. I didn't even know we were going on a hike. You're going to a date farm, and then all of a sudden you're learning about borax. It's just.
I was only there for the milkshake anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I was there for. And then all of a sudden, we're hiking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about, of course, the weekly peek. We had a lot of fun little subjects that we did. We had Shay talked about a plane crash that she visited, which was interesting. It's not as crazy as it sounds if you missed the episode. It's just it looked like it was. It all went very well. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have to down a plane, this was the best. It was the best outcome. So she got.
Hey, I need to share my airplane story, whenever.
Okay, we'll get to that. We will.
Okay,
eventually.
And then, but I think probably the most pressing thing that happened in the weekly peek that had the most buzz, the most buzzaroony around it.
The buzzaroony.
We had a lot of people comment this, but the buzz bum said, I think those fish were tadpoles with a question mark.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I have to say when I had that part, I was editing that part, and we didn't have any shots of the fish that Bryson saw. That's all I had was the tadpoles. So that's what I ran when he was talking that way. But you actually did see fish in there.
There were actually fish in there. They reminded me of like small tilapia. There were a couple, like maybe
You
3
even
inches.
said that.
They looked a lot like tilapia. I don't think they were.
Were they
but
light color like
yeah,
tilapia?
they were light, like tan, like
Okay.
that grayish, tannish color.
Oh.
Yeah, and they didn't have quite the fins that tilapia have. Tilapia have these they almost look like sharp fins or pokey fins. And they didn't quite have those, but they were gray fish like that. They were decent size too, 3 inches or so. About the ones that I saw, but
Yeah, besides the tadpoles that were there was actual fish in
Yeah.
there.
We just
There
didn't
were
have any
actual
shots of the fish,
didn't.
so we couldn't
And
show
so
that.
we
So we
said
showed
fish.
tadpoles, and then all these comments are coming on.
Wow, there were a lot of tadpole things. Yeah, we're sorry you had to say it so often.
I know it's
we did get it after the first one,
what?
and then the second one came, and you go, oh, and then the third and the fourth, and after about the 50th, we go, I think they really mean business. Those are the tadpoles.
They're like, no, Bryson, they're tadpoles.
They were very nice comments.
Nobody
They
was
were
mean.
So nice.
Yeah.
Nobody was
They were
mean.
like gently going, Bryson, I just want to let you know those are tadpoles.
It was so cute.
Like so
Actually,
gentle.
they
It was
had
like,
great. They had
"Aw."
great. Take the tadpoles and bring them back to the aquaponics. They even
Yeah,
had that.
Oh.
there were some recommendations. for
Yeah,
that.
what to do with the tadpoles?
to feed them to the fish. I mean,
Put those right next to those great big Arizona frogs we get.
Oh my!
I haven't seen any this year.
I've seen
They'll
one
come. It's when the monsoon
come when the
comes.
monsoon
Yep,
comes?
Yeah,
they're
I
under
have
the ground
seen
right
one.
now.
so far this year.
Oh, you
It was in
have?
the dog water.
Yeah,
I had to clean it out.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Ooh, you don't like them in
Sometimes
dog
they
water.
get
that's
confused
not
and
good.
those aren't frogs. Those are toads.
Oh yeah, those.
yeah,
to be
they're the
proper,
Colorado
toad.
river toads.
Colorado
you
river
know?
toad.
People freak out. They're like, "Oh my gosh," about those, and then you're
The neighbor
like,
always says we should lick them.
"Oh yeah." Ugh.
They're,
Of course,
they're like.
I don't know if our neighbor likes us, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Here's the funny thing about those. They have this poison on them, and if an animal gets into them or something like that, or an animal attacks them or anything, if they ingest any of it, their head just like
Oh, it's so
swells
sad.
up.
See 'em swell. You're like,
ridiculous thing. I mean,
It's
like it
sad,
goes
but-
like twice the size. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
I remember
massive.
Chip got one of those things, and it like,
He did.
whoa, Chip's got 2 heads. He's like big.
Chip has had so many moments where he has gotten
It's crazy.
just what would you say?
Bees.
Swollen.
Yeah, gosh.
And then you're like, oh, he's been into something else, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You do your best.
He thinks he's a large dog.
I know, he does.
He does.
In his own mind.
We've even
Unless
had a
something's
goat.
chasing him. Then in which case, even if it's a bee.
Yeah. We did have a goat to it, too.
We had a goat. Yeah, the goat got into one.
Oh, that's
Somehow.
right.
And the head was just like a swell up.
Whoa.
They're usually okay. I mean, as long as the throat, as long as they can breathe, and as long as it looks safe.
We've never had any
We've
issues. And
never
we've had
really
a lot
had-
of animals get into it. You can't help it. As vigilant as you are, it's just a part of where we live. So I'm very
they just swell up.
been
They don't
very
like
blessed.
nothing stops
I wonder if a tadpole
functioning.
would
They
do
just-
that. One of the Colorado River toads.
I don't
feel
even
like
know
they
if
just
tadpoles are
feed-
capable. What do they? Do
They're
they even have
poisoning.
little eyes at all?
Well,
or
you should
anything?
lick one, and then we'll know.
Next time we're there, would you grab one and just chuck it right in your mouth?
I guess they like cause what's the word?
Hallucinogens,
Yeah,
the stuff
that's
in
the
the-
word. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Tadpoles?
Yeah.
The tadpoles?
No,
do?
no.
The
The
frogs?
Colorado River toads that we have.
People joke about that being so nice, but to me it sounds terrifying.
Yes, I wouldn't. I
I'm
would
just
not.
like, pass.
not gonna
Big,
do that.
big
Not
pass.
cool.
For starters, who wants to lick that thing? And then knowing what happens.
They are kind of cute though, but there are a ton of them. We have a ton of them around here. You can't
we used to
bend
take
that mount.
beetles and
Yeah.
put them on the end of a stick, and you could train the frog. You'd have to do it a couple times, but eventually the frog will catch on, or toad. I'm sorry, and the toad will eventually catch on. You can like stick like little beetles on the end of sticks and feed them to the toads,
That's
and they'll
awesome.
grab them. It was really fun.
We used to, for entertainment, when we lived in the city, we would turn the light on in the porch, and all the bugs would come, and we would just sit there watching all the toads come to the patio and eat all the bugs.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch them
It's fun.
eat the bugs.
Yeah, so fun. Okay, so now that we have ventured, I'm going to leap out of that subject and into another one. We went to the date farm, which was kind of the main thing I'd say this week, which was a super fun trip, very educational, which we always love that. Anyway, so we had a question here, and I'm not sure you know the answer, but I thought if any of us do, you probably do. Plus, the question is directed at you, so it's only fair. Stephanie Hausler says, Bryson, do you have both male and female trees? How do you tell the difference?
Good
Or
question.
do you need male and female? Probably.
I don't.
Oh yeah, you do.
I don't think you can tell the difference
Till after they're grown.
until they're after like 5 years. Like I think you actually have to wait until they flower, which is like 5 years after you've grown them to find out if you have a male or female. I don't think you know right away.
really suck if you like planted 10 of them and they're all the same.
Well, I remember.
That would be a
really
bummer.
suck.
Yeah, I remember.
I waited 5 years for this.
I think it's something like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing
I guess, yeah.
from what I've heard.
But there are male and female.
But yes, there are male and female, and you have to
I keep
have a
wanting
male
to
and
call
female.
them fig trees, but they're date palms.
Date
They
Yeah.
look like figs, though.
They taste a little bit like figs to me. I don't know.
Oh,
I've been
interesting.
eating them. I put them in the freezer. Like
man.
we watched a show, which really got you excited about date. But that's why we
Yeah.
originally started ordering the date.
They were talking
seeds.
about like a date palm tree that was 2,000 years ago. They found 2,000 years ago, someone put a seed in a bin, and that bin got buried, and we just found it recently, and they've been able to.
And
grow
this is
the
over
plant,
in
the
Israel.
trees.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
a
this is over in
couple over in
Israel.
Israel, and we got very
amazing.
excited about that.
Yeah.
And he said at the end of his show, he says, "Hey, I keep mine in the freezer, and then I just take them out, and we're watching him eat them." And I did that with the leftovers of those containers, and I love those
You're
things.
just a fiend.
I
You're
just love them.
like-
I'm giving them to everyone, and I don't know if everybody's really getting the excitement I do, but I just love those things. They truly taste like caramel. I
Yes.
thought that. Well, I
They
wasn't
really do.
tasting them. I was filming when you guys were tasting them. So I thought, oh yeah, Perry's saying they taste like caramel, right? Perry's a big joker. I thought for sure he was just. But I was pleasantly surprised. They do taste like caramel.
They do.
Very good.
It's like caramel that grows on a tree. It's true. I wonder what fresh ones taste like, because we were tasting raisined ones, right? Or raisinified. I don't know what you call it. Dried out raisinified.
Raisinified.
I don't know. Right? Once. So
Yeah.
I wonder what the fresh ones taste like.
do you
Or
eat them fresh? Do you suppose?
I think some
the
you
guy
can.
From Israel was, I believe they were fresh.
Yeah, they were fresh. They were not raisinified. Those were fresh that he was putting in the freezer.
Yeah, I
okay.
think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they were like, it reminded me of
Well,
like frozen grapes.
There was one comment too that said that that's not the way we typically prepare them. So didn't you remember that comment?
Oh, I didn't.
The one that you don't have looked up. That's just I have to go from my memory on this one, which is pretty bad. So let's see what we get. But yeah, he was talking about that's not the way he likes to prepare them. So, and he sounds like he was like from the Middle East.
Oh.
So he's
Interesting.
but he says those are good, but he does them differently. Cool. His family. Yeah.
It's really exciting. I have some that sprouted in a bag, and then I forgot about them. And then I think I went too long in the bag because I tried to plant them, and I've not seen anything pop up. They did sprout, but I think it just waited too long, and they didn't. They stopped growing.
We'll see how those goes. We had Elaine.
I'll try them again soon.
Bosch says dates are great on homemade pizza too. Which
Oh,
I thought was an
pizza.
interesting
Whoa.
place
Oh.
to put them.
That's unique.
Well, we like pineapples on our pizza, so, you know.
Probably
Date
without the
pizza.
seeds and skin.
Seems like it would make it really sweet.
If you go on a
Oh,
date
that's
and
what
you
the
have date
pineapple
pizza,
does.
does that
It's really
help your
sweet.
date go along better?
I think so.
I think I've had
How
my
many
fill
date
of
jokes are there?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
We've had a lot of date jokes.
There was a lot of them, and I appreciated.
We had a
every
lot of
single
them.
one, but
But I would
Before
like to know.
had my bucket filled.
before we had the video out and we were filming, we had zillions
Oh,
of date
my
jokes.
goodness.
You know,
Yeah.
I would
know
like
why.
to know.
Bryson and Perry did not stop
No.
on the date jokes the whole time.
Very funny. No, but like I was thinking though, like where did the name date come from? Like who thinks of a fruit and like we're gonna name it a date? Did they used to tell time by it and that's why they named it a date? Is that when those bloomed, it was now that time of year? So
They may
named
not call it
a
a date in places where these originate.
They
originate.
originate.
Maybe it comes from a name.
They
Originate
originate.
Or
I mean, the original places, because they're not dates come from
know what?
palms that are not native to some areas. So
maybe some guy thought, hey, these trees should be fruiting, and they're late. Hey, we should name them dates. Because it
All right.
rhymes with late dates.
okay,
Date
late dates.
That's a stretch, but I like
don't know.
I feel like we could fill a small novel with all of the possibilities. It might be one of those words too that's so old the history of it has been lost. Maybe not. I don't know.
This all comes from a piece of grass
It does very, very big grass.
because
but
palm
grass
trees
nevertheless.
are grass, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big grass thing.
a big reed.
Big reed of grass thing stuff.
I hope. Let's see. Set your date because it's a big read.
Jeez.
Okay, sorry, I'm done now. We had the downed plane that took place for Shay, and I know I've mentioned that before. At the end of it, she had gotten a little piece. Her souvenir was that caution tape. And so she was asking if anybody had any ideas on what she could do with that. And we had a bunch of great ones. And I have screenshotted a few here. Hazel Artigame says, make that sheriff line into a purse strap, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of fun.
That'd be
A
kind of
purse
cool.
strap. I really liked that one here.
If you carry a purse,
I was thinking of one idea, making it into a wallet.
Oh,
Making a
yeah,
wallet
like
out
the way
of
you
it.
guys used to make them with the duct
I know you
tape.
used to make it with the duct tape, but I bet you could probably sew it into a wallet, maybe.
it's still plastic, so you'd have to find a way to
Yeah,
put something tougher on it so it doesn't
probably
rip or
back
tear.
it with something tougher and then make it into
Yeah.
a wallet.
Yeah, it looked like people were putting them or recommended like gluing them onto elastic or gluing it onto another material or something.
Mhm, like a
I can
belt or
imagine
something.
plastic would probably
I think
adhere.
belt was another one too. Did you get that one?
I think I did,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not sure.
A belt.
Okay,
Be a pretty
how
thick
about
belt?
SRQ Lisa says, how about placemats? Which is kind of interesting. I like that idea, placemats. Shay, a piece of police tape on the back window of your Bumblebee car looks like the colors fit.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's actually cute.
Oh, like a sticker
that.
out of it or something that you could. Be cool.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I think that's all I had. I missed the belt one, but I saw it, and I must not have been like, sorry.
There were some interesting comments about the crash itself too.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's next here. Bill Nadler says, dang, who would have thunk retrieving downed planes from people's backyards is actually a thing?
Yeah.
It never in my life, and I've lived near airports like
Yeah,
all
that
my
is a
life,
very-
and never had a plane crash in my backyard, kind of a thing. So
Yeah, and these guys, obviously, this was not the first time they'd done this. I mean, they knew exactly and yeah, like Shay said, when she first looked, she's thinking, well, how are you going to haul this down the road, and whoop, those wings come off and they just stack it up and away they go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
It's really crazy.
as they were loading it up, I was reminded that these things go in the air and they can't possibly be too crazy heavy because they go into the air is what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh yeah, I can see how it all comes apart because I'm like, oh my gosh, how are they going to do this? It just seems like an impossible task. And very interesting to watch it all come apart.
And then Mom was mentioning too, why don't they just fix it and stuff? And I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, I now too, it made me realize that these things are like made like a tin can or like a
composite
aluminum
materials
can.
And
once they get once they get hit with something, they just crumple.
Yep.
And then everything's bent. Once one thing bends, it seems. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what it kind of looked like to me. And so, because they're made to be really light, right? So, and then that, I guess that's probably why you don't see them being fixed all the time. You just see them sent straight to the junkyard.
Several years back, I was flying out of a larger airport, and I'm in my seat. I had a nice window seat. It was really cool, and getting ready. I was kind of just before the wing, and I'm watching the little guy do the the flaggy thingies, and then I look over, and the other guy just on the other side over there is doing the same thing, and their planes were kind of racing almost, and then pretty soon somebody's off course because now the wings are getting really close to each other, and it's close, and then pretty soon the guys on the ground are doing the cross thing, right? Cross, and then they're slapping it, and they're screaming, and then the two wings collided. Oh, yeah! I was in a plane crash.
Jeez.
On the ground. Who knew?
I was
on the ground.
Yeah, but still, I'm probably the luckiest man to fly with because
Oh.
Yeah, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. Well,
you're unlucky.
Yeah. I mean, a plane crash.
What's the odds of getting another one?
So fly with me, and then you don't have to be afraid. But yeah, I tell you, that was pretty freaky. Now, the bad thing about it is that it took us 45 minutes to travel 50 feet back to the place where we could get out. So we were on the airplane forever. And here's the deal. I can see everything. I watched them roll one of these ladders up to our wing, and I could see the line. If I look kind of backwards, I could see the hole. It's like 6 feet long in the front part of the wing. And as they roll that thing up, the guys that were doing they're like first up. And they're first up, and they look at it, and they go, it's a hole. Yeah, so they jump down. And then looks like people from the gate, some supervisor from the gate runs up there, and he looks at it. It's a hole. And then there are some suited people in suits now, the important folks. And they rock up and they look at it and they go, it's a hole. That took 45 minutes. And then we finally go back up to the gate, and then we debarked. It's not funny how they call that debarking. Isn't that what it is?
Sure.
Well, I have no idea. I've never heard that term. A plane?
But embark, debark.
I don't know.
Sure.
Bark out loud. Woof, woof. I don't know. Anyway, we got off, and then I, of course, had to get another plane. But I've been in a plane crash. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
On the ground.
I like that it's like very relaxed. If you're gonna crash, that'd be the perfect.
That was the
way
best
to do
crash
it.
I've ever been in,
Mm-hmm.
and none of us were injured. So it's pretty scary. The plane was rocking.
I can imagine it being like.
Did people scream?
I didn't remember screaming, unless it was me. I don't know. It could have been me screaming.
You're too busy yelling.
Wow, I heard I was screaming so loud. No, I go, oh, I remember saying something like, oh no.
Oh, geez.
It was just fun to watch the guys on the ground, though. They were like, banging their
All I
little
had to
sticks
do was
together.
look behind me, and this all could have gone away. No. Oh no.
Oh,
man.
jeez. So the question is now, would it be the pilot's fault in the plane?
No.
Or would it be the people down there guiding them?
Ground crew.
Ground crew,
Absolute.
but wouldn't you say it's the people that both approved of the plane going, really, at its core? Approved them for takeoff at the exact same time?
Gate probably doesn't have that much say on that. They're probably notified, but I think that the ground crew is responsible for releasing the plane, certifying it's safe, let's get this plane in the air.
Oh.
And then once they finally taxi them out, get them out, and then they disconnect from the airplane, then they can say, hey, pilot, you're on your own, and then they fire up the engines, and you start going away. So, yeah.
So then the question is, I guess the company would pay for the damages. You wouldn't put the price of that on
I'm
it.
sure insurance paid for things.
Lots of
Sure, there
insurance
was
paid for
lots
that
of
one.
Insurance up to someone's eyeballs.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one more here that I almost missed. Ashley on the strap ideas. Ashley Pinquite Art says, Shay, how about a guitar strap for the police tape or any instrument needing a strap?
She was just in the market for an instrument. So
What instrument she wanted to do?
well, I think she was looking at the dulcimer. Actually, she's
It's
looking
an
to
easy
get.
one, I think. It's supposed to
She
be.
wants to get something that's easy to play.
She said stringed instrument. I think it's a stringed
Yeah,
one to go with.
yeah.
I kinda
She
feel
was
like
also
the most
looking at
straightforward.
is it the ukulele that's also easy to play?
pretty
She was looking at something like that.
Oh, that's
Four
cool.
It's not as easy as they let on.
It's not too hard.
But it's not
though.
too hard.
Yeah, the chords is only there's only like 4 chords in the world, and so even out of the 12 chromatic scale,
It's
and then
just
we start perverting that
there's a
into
billion
like 5 different chords.
combinations,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not all of them sound great.
yeah, and some you can't do on a ukulele because your fingers aren't long enough. So
That's my problem.
That's always
Except I'm a big
been
baby.
Shay's frustration is that she doesn't play an instrument.
No.
She sings really well, and that's
great voice.
been kind of her strength. And I think that she finds herself frustrated sometimes that all you guys can play instruments, and she wants to get in there and do that too.
I don't know.
I
Find
think
something.
she sets
I
her
can't
mind to
really-
it. She'll be able to do it.
She'll find something.
she's coordinated. She could do drums.
But I
or
can't necessarily play an
cajon or
instrument.
something.
Like
You
there's not
play
an
cajon.
instrument that I
right.
can.
Okay.
You're a drummer. You
Drums,
play
keyboard.
keyboards.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you haven't done guitars.
No, not to the degree of actually learned it. I just copied.
He does songs, has songs that are
Copied.
recorded online.
That's what it is, though. It's just copying other.
I think it's that.
I mean, isn't it? I mean,
Yes, it is.
I mean, I remember when Bree first started playing the drums, she was sitting down there and she just would play, and I'm thinking, where did she learn that? And then I asked you one time. I said, where did you? And you're just like, it just came to you so naturally, and you're like, well, can't everybody do that? And I'm like, no,
No.
that's not.
No. And then she started singing and playing, and we're going, oh. there's
No,
not very
don't you
many
know
drummers in
that's
the
not
world
the
that
way
can
it
do that.
works? You're not supposed to be able to do that.
Most drummers are not singers. There are some very famous ones, obviously, but
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, yeah, absolutely.
I have found there's limits to drums, though. It's very difficult to write music on drums. Like, write songs.
Yeah, I bet.
That was where I first wrote songs, was on my drum, and I'm like, hey, you really can't do it with this stuff. So I had to learn the guitar and the piano.
It does have sounds and pitches, but nothing
But
melodic.
not melodic. It's more rhythmatic.
Well, you could probably, if you did rap, you could probably do it, couldn't you? With the
I probably could, but believe me,
Yeah,
Rap
it's not
doesn't
easy.
come to you.
No, it does. It's fun to write, but it's just I don't know.
You're a good vocalist. You could probably do, some beatbox or something.
Beatbox. I'd love to. But women, it's difficult for women to beatbox because we don't have the range.
Excuses.
Range.
Believe me, there's
and
women
that's
beatbox
low.
out there, and they go awesome. But I don't know when you set them.
I think
with
it's just an
some
excuse.
Bass singer who can bop it out. It's
Yeah,
because
it's
you like those low.
they do really good.
Oh, okay.
It's all right. We give it. We won't give it to them. We'll still enjoy our beatbox, but
Yeah.
we have to respect.
But we can't sing high. Well, some guys can, but most.
Are they
most
even
guys
guys at some
Yeah.
point? No, I'm just joking.
Wow.
Ouch! I'm sorry.
That hurt.
Sorry.
There was a 7-year-old who sang the national anthem at a soccer game, and she was phenomenal. And she not only
amazing.
did, there's usually a pitch where you drop it up and you bring it up another fifth at the very end.
Yeah.
She went up like 2 more into her falsetto. She was way up there.
Is she doing
So-
scream notes at some point?
She popped in. She's 7 years old doing falsetto, and she was like way up there. And of course, the crowd's
Dang.
going
Or
wild.
the whistle notes, I guess they call them.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. No, it was all falsetto. It was amazing.
Wow.
So there you go. Music,
Some crazy
all
talent
that
out
from Shay wanting to do an instrument.
there. I really hope she does. She's
Yeah.
always wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for her. I think
Yeah,
she
let's
can
get
do
her in a recorder.
She does too.
Yeah,
it. Yeah, she will. What was you? Yeah,
I
and those
think
two
that-
instruments, I think she could. Yeah, both of those. I bet.
Because
she
I know
could.
she's had the piano in her room for a long time,
Yeah.
and then pianos are hard.
Yeah.
There's so many keys
and different
from left
combinations.
to right, and then it's like, and then you gotta, and then there's the whole separating thing. You can't just, if you play with one hand, that's fine, but you need both to make it sound full.
I would love to have the whole, being able to do both
You
hands
do
at
pretty
once,
good, though.
Well, no, I mean, there's piano players out there, and you're like, oh, you got to respect that, I can get
when they're
by,
playing
but
one note over
man.
here and they're pressing like 10 keys at a time, and they're playing over here.
And they only have 5 fingers.
They only
it's
have
amazing
5,
how they do that.
pressing multiple keys.
And then you get 2 people both doing that at the same time. And you're like, holy cow, look at them go.
And then one person just, starts on the high end and just starts going. You're just like, where did that come from? How do you even know what to play, It's crazy.
It's really, really fun. Music is so fun.
Oh, yeah. We love music around here.
Anyway, we won't linger on music. We could linger there all day.
Lingering.
But was there anything, Mom, that you had there before? Yes, we do. We have one thing. From last week, we talked about doing the rock grotto. Did you have anything to kind of wrap us up?
Oh,
yes.
yeah. We had that suggestion on doing a grotto for the bathtub. And boy, did that just sent me down a road of research.
That idea ran wild.
I did. I and this is what I came to the conclusion. Really, a grotto in the simplest form is just these 2 flat rocks setting up one over the top. Water falls down, especially when you're just looking at like backyard. I did like a search on backyard grottos. So, and I was thinking, how could we use that? How could we apply that? Put it around the tub, and I really felt like there wasn't really a way to do it without keeping the water separate. And we didn't want to put the tub on in a cave because you want to be able to look up. So if the grotto was over the top, you wouldn't want that. You could push it out, but then you're talking going out way into the parking spaces for the grotto. But what I kind of came to a conclusion of and presented it to you two is why don't we make a grotto for the aquaponics? It's already got water falling.
That's a great idea.
And I went so far too to call around to find out where we could buy large rocks and get them delivered. And we actually have something pretty close to us where they will deliver large rocks. Now, I don't know if that means they'll place them for us, and I'm not sure, but we can cross that bridge when we go to doing, because I know the aquaponics is all getting new walls this year. If all goes according to our plan. Yeah. So,
do we know?
Go ahead.
Don't go ahead. Sorry.
No. So that was the idea of let's make the aquaponics into a grotto. First of all, Garen and Ellie put together an awesome aquaponics.
Beautiful.
And we gotta do something more now, don't we?
It makes ours look like this dump.
Homestead.
Came out of a dump heap.
Homestead competition right here, I tell you that.
Very friendly.
Yeah, you made one. I'm going to make a different one. This is going to be better.
No,
very friendly, very tongue-in-cheek, but it's there.
It is there. Yeah. I was thinking using aircrete to mold at least the understructure of it, and then we could put rocks attached to that above the ground. And then I wasn't so sure the rocks would leach into the water, because our water, our KH and GH levels and basically minerals are really, really high in our certain water. And I would hate to put rocks in there to just skyrocket that even higher. Would be obviously a problem. But so I'm just wondering, like, what rocks, those that you were looking at, what they are?
Well, ideally, and I'm not sure what the names of all the rocks are, but ideally the flatter ones are better, because then you can stack them and then you can use a flat rock to go over the top. I noticed when I was looking at the pictures, most people use those flat rocks, and that's where you can build up and then make that waterfall come over. And you already got a pump already there. It just seems like a really and we could, I don't know what we could do all the way down the line too. We could make it into something. It could be a lot of fun and make it more of an oasis over there. Something we were just thinking of something practical to grow things, and grow things it does. It's amazing.
It really
so now
is
it'd be really fun to just build around the bones of the structure that you have now, the tubing, and make it into something really enjoyable to see.
Really cool. And now too, like, knowing that we've already built that one, we already kind of know what things we kind of need in place to make a system like that work good and have clean water and stuff like that flowing through it.
Yeah, I was walking over there today, and I was just shocked how clean the water is, aren't you? Like, you
Yeah,
can see all the way to the
beautiful.
bottom, and
You can see
it's
the bottom.
beautiful.
Yeah. You can
Done
even
a
see
good
the
job
little
with that.
goldfish that are not that big yet, but they're swimming down. And you can even see the color on them way at the bottom.
We got
It's
goldfish, tilapia, and there's even a
Catfish in there
Yep.
somewhere.
It's
Catfish
like clean
somewhere.
enough that you wouldn't mind dipping into it,
Yeah.
it's like the clean.
Yeah.
If we made
Hey,
that grotto big enough,
We live in the desert.
you
Our
could
standards
almost
are
have,
low.
Would you though?
Dogs.
Could you get in water that isn't an aquaponics? Would that be a
The
problem?
pH is fine.
well,
Oh wait, we're talking about actually
I
swimming
don't
in
think
it.
it
That
would
was
be-
Well,
a
not
joke.
really. Maybe
just like
swimming in it,
health
but
problems, you're swimming in the water that's growing your food.
yeah, that doesn't sound
I
right.
don't know if that's
No,
necessarily good.
I was
but
joking. I
but
wasn't
here's
serious.
the
well, I
thing,
was
though,
thinking that would. Yeah,
the
you're
only
right.
thing-
You just said it all.
technically, though,
You said it all. They've got
Fish
Okay,
poop.
okay, hold
I
on
don't
now.
know.
How about
That's the whole idea.
Technically,
it's mainly fertilizer.
it breaks down and turns into fertilizer for the plants.
Yeah.
So
I'm not seeing it. No.
Yeah, no, I was very much joking. I wasn't serious. about it.
Don't swim in your aquaponics. Not a
Maybe
good
not
idea.
the best place for a dip.
probably isn't the healthiest. Maybe it's okay. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, maybe not.
Though on that though, so I was thinking using the aircrete to make, we could dig it down to the ground a little bit, using the aircrete to make kind of the in the water area, and then I don't know if we could use aircrete to make rocks that we want in certain areas, or if we buy rocks like what you're thinking. I mean, there's nothing like a real rock.
Would aircrete though have soap? It's made with soap, so wouldn't that bring up your pH a little?
Well, it probably wouldn't hold water, so you'd probably have to seal it.
Oh.
So you
So
would
just
probably
use
put it
as
in
a
there,
base.
seal it with a resin, or seal it with something that obviously is going to taint the water,
Yeah,
and then that will
and in
hold
all
it.
fairness,
You
if
can
you were
color
like,
it,
"Oh,
too.
I don't want to put the rock in there because some level thing gets shot up," we can just hit it with some, something to seal it, and then the rock never touches the water.
That's true. That's
But
true.
it would be nice not to have that. Well, Bryson, in the wild, believe it or not, there is rocks
No.
in those bodies of water.
No.
Okay.
Believe it or not. And did
You're
you
not
know
wrong.
that
You're not
people
wrong.
fish in
But-
those? And there's live fish and plants.
And people
But I have
eat
to
those
People,
fish.
and believe it or not,
But-
people swim in it, and it's not a problem.
But I have to ask you something, and this is the question that we all have.
I'm ready.
What kind of rock is around there?
I'm just saying, rock is
Brown
a
and
natural
gray.
part of the water.
You don't
It's
see
gray
very
rock.
many water sources that are in this hot
Desert
desert
area.
that has living things in it like fish.
I will
Do you know
give
what I
you
mean?
that reluctantly.
Because we have a lot of minerals. There's a lot of minerals out in the desert.
But then I also
You know-
say to you, rock could be taken from anywhere.
Well, I want to say this though too is that we could come up with fake rock and this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, but I would really like to use real rock.
yeah.
But you're talking about, from what I was reading, a 2 foot by 3 foot rock or a 3 foot by 3 foot rock. I mean, and then is we're talking about a ton each. So it's not like we can. I mean, we're going to have them come in and drop them exactly where we want, or I'm not really sure because it's not like
probably-
we're going to be okay. You get on this side. We're going to lift. I mean, we're not. A ton is 2,000 pounds. We're not lifting that. Without enough people to do that.
We commit.
Actually, there is a way to test rock. I forgot about this, but you can test rock if it's okay for the aquaponics by using like vinegar, and you put vinegar on it, and then if it foams up, you don't really want to use it because it's too alkaline to put in your system. But other than you can actually. So, and my guess is if we're picking those rock, we could probably drive up there and test them to make sure that they're not going to.
And if you had some salad, you could make a little
Taste 'em?
salad.
You can make a grotto salad.
Grotto salad with your vinaigrette.
Perfect.
All right,
Raspberry
we'll go rock
vinaigrette.
testing.
Yes.
We'll bring our huge bottle of vinegar and be like, hey, you mind if I spritz this just a little? Can I spritz it? Is that okay?
So you spritz it.
Oh,
You're like, oh, it's bubbly?
yeah.
Oh, it's
All
bubbly.
right.
We're moving on.
Oh, mom.
They're
Oh,
like looking at
mom.
us weird. We're like, no, it's bubbly.
No, we can't use that. Sorry.
Mom, I
Bubbles.
have a great idea. We've always wanted to do fodder for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So what if the rock grotto has a waterfall, right? and it has this section that kind of wraps around like this and goes back into the flows. And as water flows down, it flows into these trays that you have fodder growing along the side that then grows back into the
that would be awesome.
system.
Yeah. The only thing that we have to be concerned about with the fodder is that fermented water that comes off of
if it doesn't work out, we could grow rice.
Unintentionally make some beer.
There you go.
Yeah. Sorry.
Rice? Anyone?
Got you. I gleaned onto the fermented joke and then I ran with it, so I totally
all of a
missed what
sudden
you were
it's a
saying.
giant thing of beer.
Whoops.
And at the last one, we have a tap. We just open it up.
Yeah, don't mind that fish swimming around. He's a little weird. He'll be fine.
He's a little tipsy. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're new here and you've never hung out with our family before, we post 3 times a week over on our YouTube channel. We have our main show, which is the Weekly Peek that comes out every Friday. Every Monday, this podcast comes out. If you're watching on our other 2 audio-only places, which is the iTunes podcast and Spotify, if you're over there listening, we post the visuals of us hanging out here over on our YouTube channel every Monday. And then Wednesday, we have something we have lovingly been calling the Midweek Peek, which is a one subject, usually short, but can be a full version long show that comes out every Wednesday. And then, of course, background to Friday for that, for our main show. So thank you so much for hanging out with us, participating. If you would like to, we usually take comments that are from the Weekly Peek. So those are usually the ones we get to. Thank you for submitting those and for talking. We so appreciate hearing what you have to say, and your questions and your comments are always so valuable. Ideas, oh my gosh. So thank you for taking part in what we do. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will catch you for the Midweek Peek on Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.